greatest mangaka of all time, who comes to mind? Maybe your first thought would be the godfather of manga, Osamu Tezuka. Possibly storytelling visionary Naoki Urasawa would pop up next. You may even think of the multi-talented icon Rumiko Takahashi. However, none of these would be my answer. My own answer would be an artist who few in the English-speaking manga community would even know. The mangaka that comes to mind for me is walking amongst us right now, and is one of the most innovative and creatively interesting storytellers in manga. This mangaka has never worked in Shonen Jump, nor have they ever had a big hit here in the States. In fact, they don't even work in shonen or seinen at all. This mangaka is a modern living shoujo legend, a master with a pen who has only recently started gaining recognition for their artistic prowess in the last few years. Yumi Tamora. Your favorite mangaka's favorite mangaka. Yumi Tamora is an artist that I bring up time and again on this channel as one of the best mangaka to put ink to a page. Her delicate and dynamic artistry makes her stand out from the rest. She can seamlessly blend all kinds of genres together, mix motifs, and make incredibly believable drama, all while keeping the heart of her series on a very human level. Tamora masterfully balances out sweeping adventure epics with forbidden love, or apocalyptic survival thrillers with high school teen drama. Her characters may be outrageously quirky, but they're never two-dimensional. That's just the effervescent style of Tamora's work. Yet, how can a large majority of manga fans never have heard of Yumi Tamora if she's not only an icon to me, but selling millions upon millions of copies of her series over in Japan? How has she never come up in an international manga fans list for generational back-to-back releases? Why has no one heard of Yumi Tamora? The mean answer is that Americans have no taste. We are the white family's roast chicken meal of the manga publishing world. The real answer is that Tamora never really got her chance to shine here. First, due to her lack of visibility in works published, but also because of anime adaptations never quite hitting it big. However, just because she never got her flowers doesn't mean she doesn't deserve them. I mean, when the third searched word behind her name is genius, then clearly we're missing something here that Japan isn't. After years of trying and failing to bring Tamora into the limelight for English speakers, the manga publishing industry may have all but given up on this once-in-a-lifetime talent. But not me. I'm scrappy. And I have a YouTube channel. Yumi Tamora is one of the best mangaka you have never heard of, and here is why we need more of her works in the States. Born in the late 60s, Tamora has always had a love for manga. She has cited reading both shonen and shoujo manga voraciously growing up, and being particularly struck by a series called Hamidashiko by Jun Mihara, a series that definitely inspired many of her works, mixing tragedy with more cutesy artwork. Her love for reading manga soon turned into creating it too. So, in junior high school, Tamora, ever the rebel that she is, decided to create a secret manga club since schools at the time still looked down on this medium. She gathered friends from all different school systems to come together and create manga in different people's homes. This is where Tamora credits her biggest inspirations for continuing to get better. She had a friend in the club that was so good at drawing that she was only more determined to work harder. Well, that and the fact that she had a sexist art teacher who told her that it didn't matter whether she became a mangaka or not because women had it easy, so it didn't matter what she did. Continuing your passion on spite. She's just like me for real. Before she even graduated high school is when she officially made her first debut as a manga artist. At first she had struggled on what kind of series she wanted to create, but eventually pushed herself to do the kind of series that she would love to do. This resulted in a one-shot called Our Absolute Time, which won an honorable mention for the Shogakukan Newcomer Awards, and subsequently was published in Betsukomi. The one-shot was a drama mystery series about a reporter named Billy, who she had been drawing since her manga club days. While this was her first debut, Tamora still decided to wait until after she would graduate from her design school that she was attending. And it wasn't until 1986 where she began working more regularly in the shoujo manga magazine Betsukomi, where her one-shot was published. However, her initial series didn't go as well as she had hoped for, since she was pushed into doing more standard romance fare in the magazine rather than getting to do the hard-boiled action that she wanted to. When she talked to her then editor, he said that if she wanted to do action, she had to make a sports manga. And of course, it had to have a girl protagonist. She did end up creating this sports manga, even if it did leave her frustrated at how little creatively she got to do. Choto Ayushite Mitai was a 2-volume tennis series about a young girl forced to quit tennis because her father didn't approve. Which is honestly kind of funny considering she had both a sexist art teacher and an editor who both told her not to pursue the thing she wanted to do. The manga didn't really receive much attention anyway, so it was back to the drawing board for Tamora's next serialization. For her second full-fledged work, Tamora ended up getting a bit more freedom. In an interview, she recalls she doesn't even know how that happened, but it did. And with this second serialization, Tamora was able to showcase where her talents truly lied. There Goes Tomoe was an 8-volume, high-octane drama that represented the exact kind of dynamic plots, multifaceted female leads, and dubious men that she was capable of creating. The manga follows former roller skater Tomoe, who joins what she believes to be a troupe of stuntmen, only to find out that they're actually a sinister organization that now wants her back after she escapes. While not a chart topper by any means, There Goes Tomoe was still bringing eyes to Tamora for bending the rules of shoujo manga. Although Tamora would tell you that shoujo can be anything, school rom-coms were still all the rage at the beginning of her career. Action shoujo isn't unheard of by any means. Banana Fish was literally currently ongoing in the magazine that Tamora was publishing in, but at the same time, action in shoujo wasn't popular. So There Goes Tomoe being an action series in a shoujo magazine felt that much more defiant at the time. This manga was also emblematic of Tamora's rough and tough shoujo girls who were allowed to have emotions. Spunky, yet still kind. Tamora started creating female characters in shoujo that were just as complex as girls are in real life. Not afraid to make them confused or scared while still running headfirst into the dilemmas that they're encountering. Which in turn helped Tamora stand out from the crowd of passive shoujo characters that were popular. In a way, Tamora did kind of take this typical shoujo girl who's bright-eyed and sweet, but gave her a drive and purpose outside of a romance. There Goes Tomoe is a relatively obscure Yumi Tamora series, although it is Fumi Yoshinaga's favorite. So it wasn't actually until Yumi Tamora went on a trip to Egypt where her career skyrocketed. She came across the pharaoh Hatshepsut, a woman who wore traditional male garb to be accepted into the patriarchal society of Egypt. This is when the creative juices began to flow, and Tamora pumped out one of the best adventure fantasy series of all time, Basara. The 27-volume action-adventure series followed a young girl named Sarasa, whose twin brother was murdered by the Red King that rules their land. She takes up her brother's name and disguises herself as him to become the Boy of Destiny who will lead the revolution against the monarchy. Basara expertly weaves high-stakes action with equally high-stakes romance. Yet, at the same time, this series has such an emotional weight to it, as Sarasa is still a teen girl. The perils and consequences of war and revolution are deeply felt as you meet new characters through every arc who have been impacted by the upper echelons. The grand scale of it never feels so overwhelming that the characters aren't grounded in the harsh reality they live in, nor is it so bleak that you don't think hope can exist in this world. Sarasa as a character feels so human that when she emotionally breaks, you feel so gutted for her. She's lost her home, her family, and her identity, and while she could very well choose vengeance, she still wants to choose kindness. While Basara is a story about war and revolution, Tamora still decides to show us that empathy is how we can stop this cycle. Her delicate illustrations push this home even further. She shows how Sarasa must bear the burden of her actions along the story, and how even if she is pursuing a just cause, there are still consequences. This manga is also where Yumi Tamora really gets to show us her eclectic sense of storytelling. You get a bit of a taste of it in There Goes Tomoe and some of other Yumi Tamora's short stories before Basara, but this one never shies away from an over-the-top moment. One of Sarasa's first missions is retrieving her brother's sword from a completely surrounded stadium. To do so, she straps herself under a cow and has a stampede of them run through so she doesn't stick out. An idea like this would seem so outrageous in and outside of this work, but Tamora's propensity for chaos just makes it seem so normal. Basara was beloved by both fans and manga critics alike in Japan. It became Tamora's first long-running series, got a 13-episode anime adaptation, and sold 15 million copies throughout its 8-year run. Not even a few years into this series run, she also won her first ever Shogakukan Manga Award for it as well. Basara was truly the manga turning point for Tamora and allowed her to create whatever she wanted to in the future. But this is unfortunately the opposite for the American audience, who ended up getting Basara a few years after it wrapped. In America, the first introduction we got to Yumi Tamora was actually 2 short serializations that she created after Basara. A 2-volume story called Chicago Mentioned, and a 1-shot volume called Wildcom. These were both published by Viz in 2001 and 2002 respectively. I guess they both did okay enough for Viz that they also decided to license Basara, which came out in 2003. Like I said though, Basara seemed to have flopped miserably in the States. Despite critics at the time praising its stylistic flair and likening Yumi Tamora to the shoujo manga version of Frank Miller, Basara never really found an audience on release. Sales numbers from back then aren't super easy to come by, but on anecdotal evidence, the manga most likely never got more than 1 print run for each volume. First of all, meaning that it's going to be incredibly hard to find physically in English now because that few people were buying it, I guess, but also that they never had to reprint it. That's not to say that no one liked Basara, just that it never really got marketed properly. From what I've heard from early day manga fans, which is the people right before my generation of manga fans, the shoujo imprint Viz Shoujo, which came out before Shoujo Beat was a thing, was relatively hard to find in stores. And bookstores were, and still pretty much are, pivotal for shoujo manga sales. Tokyo Pop had really revolutionized how manga was sold in bookstores by, marketing to the untapped audience of girls by selling manga in mall bookstores like Borders, Walden's, Barnes & Noble now. Meaning, at this time, manga had to be there and it had to be visible. Outside of Fushigi Yugi though, Viz shoujo titles like Basara weren't really on shelves, which means the exact audience that would be buying this series wouldn't be finding it. Because it did so poorly sales-wise, when Basara wrapped up in 2008, Tamora was no longer seen as viable in the States. Shoujo Beat began in 2006 and rebranded to more romantic drama titles, and Tamora doesn't really fit into that. And for a while, Basara would be the last series that the English-speaking audience would get from Yumi Tamora. This is why so many people have no idea who she is. And now we've gone almost 2 whole decades without her works on our shelves. Just because she wasn't in front of our eyes doesn't mean that she wasn't busy creating masterpieces though. This time she went from Basara to making another post-apocalyptic sci-fi, 7 Seeds, which she started in 2001, 2 years before Basara came out in English at all. The 35-volume long thriller was just as grand in scale and creatively daring as Basara, but this time, survival was a main theme instead of the revolution. It follows 5 groups of 7 teenagers who are all cryogenically frozen and sent into the future after a meteor has completely wiped out civilization. Now, as incredible as Basara is, 7 Seeds is the first work from Tamora that I ever read, so it holds a very special place in my heart. There is not an emotional beat that doesn't hit you the exact way she wants it to hit you in this one. When a character discovers some dramatic new revelation, the emotion that is portrayed through the artwork washes over you like an ocean tide. Tamora's illustrations are heavily stylized. It could be described as a punchier, darker version of classic 70s shoujo art. But it's thanks to that heaviness mixed with the delicate line work that just pulls you into the depths of these manga. Tamora states that 7 Seeds is really a high school drama in a survival thriller setting. It puts all these different character dynamics and people into one place to see how all their personalities will clash and combine with one another, but never quite overshadowing the other either. This manga really is a rare case of having nearly 35 main characters at one time, and somehow Tamora really is able to carefully balance all of them. A sentiment that she says is purposeful because she doesn't believe that a side character lives only for the main character's happiness in her stories. This just explains why the worlds that Tamora builds are always so full of life, because each person she creates feels rounded. The moment that 7 Seeds becomes an instant masterpiece to me is actually the same time in which Tamora says she was able to fully form the idea of what she wanted this manga to be. Around 6 volumes in 7 Seeds, we get one of the best chapter by chapter manga runs in manga history, the Hail of Corn arc. Every moment, every character, every new twist enraptures you. This arc is what truly showed me how ingenious Tamora's writing really is. It's hard trying to explain what makes this arc so good without spoiling it to you, so I really just think you guys need to go read 7 Seeds. It's truly immaculate. One of the best manga ever created. And once again, this manga wasn't just celebrated by me 2 seconds ago. It's a beloved manga in Japan too. In total, it sold 6 million copies and earned Tamora her 2nd Shogakukan Manga Award. 7 Seeds also ended up getting a 2-season anime adaptation on Netflix, which we do not talk about. Like, seriously, it is such a poor piece of representation for what 7 Seeds is as a manga that we just do not talk about it as a piece of media. And you should too. God, wouldn't it be so cool if 7 Seeds got an anime adaptation? Now you say it. 7 Seeds is where Tamora was solidified as a true artist and visionary in my mind. She's not just a world builder, but someone who can expertly navigate difficult relationships while highlighting the delicate range of emotions people can have. When I think of the different kinds of narratives that shoujo can achieve, I think of Yumi Tamora, someone who has so much range across genres but never loses the heart of the matter, the interiority. She is an artist who isn't afraid of portraying fragility as something we can grow and learn from. That strength can be within us at all times, no matter who you are. Tamora is also a mangaka that isn't afraid to subvert expectations. When you zig, she zags. She's got a rebellious nature to her, not unlike her spunky female protagonists. Why else would you shave the head of your male lead, not even partway through a series, if it's not to say, expect the unexpected? However, this rebellion also comes from a place of subverting expectations of women in society. Her currently ongoing series, Don't Call It Mystery, is another great example of this. A murder mystery manga that doesn't quite care about the mystery as much as it does waxing philosophical to the audience, with the main character Totono as a pseudo stand-in to convey Tamora's own musings on current society. In this manga, she significantly subdues her more atmospheric art style to let the dialogue really shine, making it more reminiscent of a stage play in manga form, more so than a locked room mystery a la Sherlock Holmes. The more approachable, simple art style paired with the more intellectual storytelling really made Don't Call It Mystery her biggest hit. With only 13 volumes, the sales for this series currently sits at 19 million copies in total. It's also received accolades such as the Manga Taisho Award, another Shogakukan Manga Award, and a highly successful drama adaptation that has only earned it more and more praise and more people looking to read it. Because of this, Tamora has only been more recognized as a prolific and gifted mangaka, and it only took a male protagonist and less stylized shoujo artwork to get the universal praise that she absolutely deserves. Luckily, Americans can finally see her talents again too. Don't Call It Mystery was licensed in English not too long ago, which is giving English speakers another chance to let Tamora have a fan base here. It may not have her typical artwork that I have come to know and love, but it still has that same incredible storytelling that Yumi Tamora is so good at. The mysteries themselves are intriguing, but it's really Totono and Tamora's viewpoint that capture the audience. A sociologist that was interviewed about the manga even said that Totono isn't just unraveling mysteries, he's unraveling the human heart. Which doesn't just explain Don't Call It Mystery. It explains all of Yumi Tamora's works. She isn't just writing about revolutions, roller skating, survival, or mysteries. She's writing about the human heart and all the ways it can adapt, morph, and grow across all different challenges life could throw at you. It's because of this that she is so innovative. Her works can have discussions about death, trauma, sexism, environmental crises, crime, or familial issues, all in one manga, and it still works in the context of what she's creating. But let's be honest, we don't just read manga for these pretentious takes on narrative. We also read them because we want to have fun. And Yumi Tamora is just as fun as she is thought-provoking. You genuinely come to love each of the characters that she creates, and each one is just as quirky as the next. Never is a manga that she creates all doom and gloom with no laughs. Tamora's dry sense of humor and love for the dramatics makes her series just as entertaining. If you are someone who has never read a series by Yumi Tamora, then let this video be your sign. Pick up the first omnibus of Don't Call It Mystery or download the Viz app so you can read Basara digitally. With how breathtaking her illustrations are and how ingenious her stories continue to be, you'll never be disappointed by the masterpieces she creates time and again. Yumi Tamora is really just in a class all her own when it comes to creating manga, and it really is disappointing to see that she still has not found an English-speaking audience that would consider her to be one of the greatest of all time. So pick up one of her works, open your heart, and be ready to be transported into a world of romance, action, and thrills. Soon, you too will understand why I think that Yumi Tamora is one of the best mangaka that you guys have never heard of.